Welcome to B2B Sales Trends, the podcast dedicated to sales leaders in the B2B space, where we share conversations about innovative and successful sales transformations to keep you up to date on the latest trends. This podcast is brought to you by Global Performance Group.
Welcome yet to another fabulous episode. And this is a special episode, my lovely people, of the B2B Sales Trends podcast, the show that brings you hacks, tips, thought leadership for the world of B2B selling. My name is Harry Kendlbacher, and today's episode is special. Why is it special? Because it is number 50, our 50th episode. We had 49 episodes with amazing guests. So today, unfortunately, you have to do with just me. So I'll be going through the most prominent topic that we have heard in the 49 last episodes. We had great sales leaders on those episodes. We had great sales enablement people, salespeople. Everything that was shared was worth the world of B2B sales trends and how we need to behave in this world of ever-changing buying behavior. On this 50th special episode, I would like to dive into one topic, and one topic that really is on everybody's mind these days and was featured in quite a few episodes beforehand, and that topic is win rates. How do we increase them? Everybody's hurting a little bit. Everybody wants to win more deals. They want to win them faster, and they want to win them more profitably. And really, what does it take to increase win rates and win more deals? That's really the topic of today that I want to dive into in the next few minutes on this special episode. So let's dive into the topic. 60% of those deals, of all the deals, actually, research says, and the number varies a little bit depending on which research you listen to, but it's around 60% of deals are lost to not another competitor, but to no decision. So the common things that we've heard on the podcast, why deals are stalling, is really this seller and buyer misalignment. The seller's perception of the buyer's needs is different to the buyer's perception of their needs. And therefore, there is a misalignment on what is the problem and what needs to be solved. There's also how does it need to get solved. The second piece is there are a lot of these sort of surface level conversations that are happening. Let's talk about the products. Let's talk about the services, how great we are as an organization, and what wonderful support we're going to give them. And we all talk very surface level. Now, what we should be doing is really generating new needs. Now, what does this mean? It doesn't mean that we are finding out needs or wants by asking the same old rubbish questions that everybody else is asking. What we should be doing is asking those questions that are driving new needs, generating new needs that the client hasn't considered that they have, needs that their prospect hasn't appreciated that you can help them with and has an impact on their business. Those are the sort of conversations that don't happen. And the third thing, or the third reason that came up during those podcasts quite often, actually, I would say even one of the most talked about topics, actually, with all those different guests, was about the idea of stakeholder and stakeholder mapping. How do we identify the decision-making teams? How do we align all of them behind a vision to drive towards a common goal and get deals closed? So really interesting sort of perception from people on why we're not winning those deals. The seller-buyer misalignment on the problem, but really those surface-level conversations and the decision-making process, the stakeholders who are involved in them. For today's episode, what I'm going to share with you, because the B2B Sales Trends podcast is all about providing value to you throughout all the episodes. So why should episode 50 be any different, right? So I'm going to share with you the 5 steps of our win rates framework. It's a proven framework that we've implemented with so many organizations, and they are applied to this issue of declining win rates. It's really 5 simple things. And I'm a great believer in the fact that Don't throw 50,000 things at salespeople. Nowadays, there are tools, there is AI, there's all these things, forms and planners, all these things that they have to comply to and fill out and so forth. And I don't believe in giving them more stuff to do, but really keep it pragmatic, elegant, and executable. So here are the 5 steps. I'm going to touch on each one of them on one sentence and then go a little bit deeper in each one so you can have 5 concrete things you can implement in your B2B selling process. Step number 1 for our 5 steps win rates framework is, drum roll, is deal qualification. How we qualify deals early on, are those winnable deals, is key to increasing win rates. Second step, strategically plan for the opportunity. How do we really map out all the stakeholders, the decision-making process, and so forth? Step 3, key agreements. I've seen so many sales processes in my life. I've been doing this for 25 years. I've seen hundreds of sales processes. Some have 3 steps, some have 10 steps. They have one thing in common: nobody's using them. So how do we get from step to step through the sales process to key agreements that we execute with the client throughout the process? That's really a game changer. And then, of course, step number 4, how do we create urgency in our conversations? How do we have that uncomfortable cost of inaction conversation? And then the last step is, how do we close and protect margins effectively? So let's dive into each one of them for a couple of minutes, so that will really give you some cool things to think about and to take away. Let's start with step number 1, which is deal qualification. My lovely people, the biggest challenge for sales leaders and for salespeople, quite honest, is they live in a land of hope. Now, hope is a lovely thing. It's not a strategy, though, as some people have said in the past. Hope is this or that opportunity comes through. So they're living in the land of hope. But hopefully this and that opportunity will come through. And if this falls into place, this might happen too. But a lot of the time, salespeople are really chasing these ghosts and are hoping that things will happen, and they don't. And that will lead to what I call the never ever closed deal that sits and rots in your CRM forever. Nobody wants to touch it. But of course, we as salespeople want to keep it alive because we live in the land of hope. And we want to tell our sales manager, no, it will come through. I'll put it into my projection in the next quarter. No problem. This is why the opportunity qualification, shall I say, deal qualification initially is so key. And part of any effective deal qualification is to go after winnable deals. For that, we really need to ask ourselves a number of questions. What is my ICP, ideal customer profile, right? What is the company size I want to go after? What's the industry that I'm playing best in? What are the buying personas on that decision-making team that I can influence and I can win? And most importantly, is there a problem? Is the problem big enough? Does it hurt the client or the prospect big enough? Is it worth for them solving and putting budget behind it? Can I quantify the solution for them and the cost of inaction if they can't do it? And can I solve that? Now, those answers are really critical for us to ask. If all these things fall into place, we have an opportunity that is qualified and that we can go after. So ask yourself those questions. What is my ideal customer profile? Do I know all the stakeholders I can engage with? Is the problem big enough for them? Is the problem worth for them solve it, or is it just something I'll leave behind? Are the opportunities aligned with our strengths and our value propositions? And are the target prospects where you can deliver exceptional results? That's really the question. So selecting these right opportunities really sets the stage for successful engagement and increase not just the win rates, but also increase deal velocity. Because one of the things that sales leaders are super concerned with is not just Are we winning the deals? But how long are these things dragging on? It drives me insane. All my white hair comes from deals that haven't closed. I've stayed alive forever in my sales process. I need them closed. So it's really key to effectively qualify these deals out. And remember, it's easy to do nothing for prospects. It's easy. Change is painful. Why should I change? Why should I go with your solution? It's a pain for me to change. I need to be making all these processes happening internally to bring you in. Do nothing is easy for me. So if the problem is not big enough, I will not change. And remember, and I'll go into this in the second or third step a little bit more, decision making is basically done by two elements, either to gain an outcome or to avoid a risk. Anything else is status quo maintenance, and you can forget it. The step number 2 is really the opportunity planning. The opportunity planning for this is really about stakeholder mapping. And remember, this is the topic really that came up most in the 49 episodes beforehand. And it's so interesting. There's different stats out there, and one says this and one says this, but they say the average is that there are nowadays 11 different stakeholders in any decision-making process. So, and everyone needs to be presented a big enough business case so they individually avoid that risk or gain that outcome, right? So it's tricky, it's complex to maneuver these things around, and salespeople are drawn, and this is the issue with it. The salespeople are drawn to the conversations that they like to have. I love to speak with like-minded people. We get on. We have similar opinions. We like the same outlook on things. People like to people like to talk to people. Should I rather say, where they have something in common with. And most of the times in the sales process, it's the technical discussion, right? But what about the financial discussion? Oh no, I need to talk now to a CFO or to a CPO, but I'm a software specialist. And this is why people fall back into their comfort zone. They avoid certain stakeholders and not engage with them. They're focused on the stakeholders they're comfortable with. And what happens? Boom, not everybody is aligned in the same vision. Not everybody pulls in the same direction. What happens? Boom, the deal keeps sitting in the CRM and nobody's doing anything about it. So step 2, opportunity planning. Make sure you map strategically out that opportunity. Who are my stakeholders? What's my decision-making process? And so forth. This is relatively nicely linked with the deal qualification piece, but really a separate part of that process. So step 1, deal qualification. Step 2, opportunity planning. Step 3, one of my favorite steps, and that's the step that nobody ever does, and it is a sheer crime that people don't do it. We haven't had an episode on that, and it's something that our organization, Global Performance Group, is really, really strong in, is the idea of key agreements. I shared earlier that I've seen so many sales processes, and sales processes have a number of steps that salespeople basically are ticking the box. Oh, yes, I'm at step 2. The step 2 is about identifying needs. And what do I do with identifying needs? Yes, I've asked the client some questions. I know the problem that they have. Yes, I have done this. Yes, I have done this. Yes, I have done this. Move on to proposal stage, shall we? That is the wrong approach. A sales process must not be a ticking the box exercise, my lovely people. That is driving your win rates down. This is where the concept of key agreements comes in. Instead of thinking of the sales process as a series of ticking the box to move on, it's really a critical method to build strong and collaborative relationships with prospects and clients. And each agreement is sort of a sail that catches wind in the sales process towards increasing win rates. And what it is a key agreement is actually an agreement with the prospect with the customer a mini sort of an agreement. So, for example, instead of saying it's step two, have I identified needs? Yes, I have identified needs. I've asked 5 questions. Um, have I agreed with the client that I get access to all the key stakeholders? Have I agreed with the client or the prospect that there is a necessity to change? Have we agreed that the cost of inaction for this opportunity is XYZ and they've bought into that vision? You see, a sales process is from the standpoint of the salesperson and the company that we're working with. Key agreement, the wording gives it away a little bit. It's an agreement. An agreement needs to be made by 2 people, right? But the problem is salespeople hate it. Now, why do they hate it? It's so counterintuitive for salespeople because it means they have to ask for things early in the sales process to the prospect or the customer. And they don't like it because they don't want to upset the relationship. They don't want to make the opportunity go away. They're fearing that, oh my God, if I start asking and demanding things and agreeing things early, this might go away. They might go with a competitor. They might do something else. But there is a clear place. If you don't have a key agreement in place, the opportunity is not real, in my opinion. Agree early on in the sales process. If you have these agreements, the opportunity becomes much more winnable. The sellers are not typically comfortable doing this, as I mentioned. There is a difference between a description of the sales process step and an agreement with the prospect. And that is such a big difference. For example, the idea of have we agreed the willingness to change, right? We just heard that the status quo, standing still, not doing anything, no decision is our biggest competitor. Have we agreed with the prospect that there is the willingness to change? Is the problem big enough and is it worth changing? So therefore, securing the prospect's willingness to change is foundational. It establishes a relationship, it builds trust and collaboration. When the prospect is open to change, they are much more likely to actively engage in the sales process with you. Without this agreement, you risk encountering these roadblocks later on in the sales cycle. This is when these things stall. So it's really important that the sales process is not a series of ticking the box and activities that I have to do, but much more a series of agreements that I collaborate already early on with the prospect. The power of these agreements lies really in the cumulative effect. Each agreement strengthens the probability to win. It's not just a checklist, but a strategic approach to build an understanding and alignment with the prospects. Remember, key agreements are not what your people have to do at each stage of the sales process. But much rather, shall I say, a series of trackable key agreements that will be increasing your win rates drastically. I can't name any names, but we've done this with many organizations. Implement key agreements in their sales process and the win rate exploded. It really is a key differentiator for us. Okay, good. Step 4 is, of course, I've got all these great key agreements now. And at first I started out with the deal qualification. Then I strategically planned for my opportunity. Then I formed these key agreements. At some point, I got to have the confidence and the courage to create urgency. Now, the fact is that your biggest competitor is not your competitor or not your competition. Your biggest competitor is no decision, as we have said that already. What does that mean is the prospect decides to do nothing. Okay, great. We've established that. People make decisions either, and this is really, 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 really key. People make decisions either to avoid a risk or to gain an outcome. So if I can't have a conversation that is based either on a risk that I can help you avoid or an outcome that I help you to gain, we're not having an accurate opportunity that's closable and there is no urgency behind it, and do nothing is my next best option. So how do we have these conversations that create urgency? Now, one part of that urgency discussion is to generate new needs. And typically what salespeople do is to meet with prospects and clients and ask them the 20 questions. I sort of alluded in that and I touched on that a little bit early on, but no, this is the wrong approach. No issue with asking questions, of course. However, asking the prospect questions that quite honestly the salesperson should know already the answer to does not provide any value to the prospect or the client. So you have to generate new needs in the mind of the buyer, needs that they haven't considered, needs that they're unknown, needs that they're underappreciated before. If I can generate these kind of needs, I can create urgency to progress. This then creates a very compelling case for change. The other point, of course, is to create that cost of inaction conversation, something that salespeople are really not good at. And the key question for me really is, have we articulated clearly what the cost of inaction is, and that your solution is a necessity and not just an option to solve that problem? That's really the cost of inaction. The problem is that a lot of people talk about ROI and they think that's the cost of inaction. That's wrong. Can I really quantify the actual cost of inaction for this prospect? Not ROI. ROI is a dollar or a euro number you may see going forward. This is not the cost or a risk, right? That is the outcome. So I really need to have the conversation on both ends. So our research states clearly that the cost of inaction really heightens, or the cost of inaction conversation, shall I say, really heightens this urgency and contributes directly to increasing win rates. The last step, my lovely people, and then I'm going to leave you alone again, try to implement all these 5 wonderful steps. Step 5 is close and protect. Protect means protecting margins at the close of business. Staying strong, defending your value, protecting profitability is really something that salespeople are typically not very good at, I'm afraid I have to say. Many times they come up with a concession strategy, is this idea of what do I give away to close the deal? And the strategy basically is that, and that is the wrong approach. What else can I throw in to close that deal? That is not the right signal that's going to send out. It's going to ask, or it's going to provoke, shall I say, the client, the buyer, the prospect to be asking for more. So the key to closing and protecting is to shape value-based agreements, not just at the end when it comes to price, terms, and conditions, but throughout the sales process. So you have already implemented that trade mentality throughout the sales process. That is really, 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 really important, not to give too much too soon, but have that sort of the trade mentality. And this really also goes into your strategic planning to prepare for these agreements. You know, what to give, when do you give it, how do you give it, what signals do you send by giving it, and most importantly, what can you ask for in return, and match these negotiables back and forth to make sure you don't leave your deal or you leave your deal as profitable as you can, and keep the message on value and share the cost of inaction or the loss of opportunity is really, really important. So remember, my lovely people, these are the 5 steps to increase win rates: opportunity qualification, strategic deal planning, key agreements, creating urgency, and close and protect. If you want to know more, go to globalperformancegroup.com. My team is happy to help you with any of those elements. And the interesting thing is, out of those 5, we've talked to many organizations who have like 3 or 4 of them already in place, and that's good. But if they're missing one key step, that again drives down the win rate and that creates an issue for them. There are many, many, many more nuggets in the past 49 episodes. Today, in episode 50, big celebration. We wanted to provide some big value to you and share the win rate package and process with us. So go back to the previous 49 episodes and listen to some of these huge nuggets that our lovely guests have shared. You can find them wherever you find your podcasts, either Apple, Spotify, and so forth. Go to the B2B Sales Trends.com site to listen to any of the episodes that you've missed, or on YouTube on B2B Sales Trends podcast. Subscribe and like it. You will do us a favor. We appreciate that very much. I'd like to finish off the episode by saying thank you to my incredible team who helps putting these episodes together, makes us all look fabulous, and provides you with real good insights and thought leadership to the world of B2B selling. I also would like to say thank you to my great guests to contribute to our community, to all the B2B sellers out there who are interested in learning and continuously progressing. You are all very appreciated. I see you all at episode 51 coming to wherever you get your podcasts soon. Look after yourself. Happy selling.